are not paying attention, deliberately being kept in a stupor. Now, here is the irony of the situation. The only way that a country can run up this amount of debt and not be able to eventually not be able to service it, well, how is it going to be paid off with dollars that are worth less? But that becomes a point, because what happens is that there's a devaluation coming. This is what's happening already in the third world, the so-called banana republics. You had this past weekend, that's the 9th and 10th, the week from the 2nd to the 9th, that weekend, Venezuela, Chavez, the socialist, well, the chickens come home to roost. And basically what has happened with Chavez is that he had to reduce the value of his currency 46, just say 46, let's round up to 50%. Can you imagine losing 50% of your savings? Your wages are cut. He has to introduce some form of price control, because the people that are the various produce and goods and services, they have to eventually jack up their prices. You got one hell of a mess, and his inflation is running 22%. This is nightmarish, folks. And so, well, what is this harbinger, or what is this an omen for the major world powers? And when I say world powers, we can just sit here and just cry and bawl at the situation. We're talking about Japan. Well, first of all, let's start with the U.S., #1 economy. Let us start with England, EU, and Japan, and also China. Listen, they are technically all bankrupt and just passing paper backwards and forwards. See? So what they are going to eventually have to do is go to a devaluation of the currency. And that means we're talking about 50, 70%. Can you imagine $220 trillion liability for the U.S.? It cannot be paid. So your Social Security, your pension, whatever you have, all these things are going to be affected. And before you kill the messenger, let me say this. This is already taking place in places like Greece, what we call the so-called pig nations, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, Ireland, where you already have, especially in Greece, their pension was reduced. The pension was reduced. Huge, massive layoffs, austerity plans, cutting of various social programs. That's part of the socialist thing. The pensions, all this stuff was totally devalued, and people are scrambling just to maintain what little savings they got. So if you got can you imagine being in Venezuela and got in terms of, if you don't have any of your savings in dollars, and remember, the dollar is totally bankrupt, but in terms of the peso or the Venezuelan currency, it's a lifesaver, because it saves your purchasing power. So we begin to see very, very quickly that you can be totally wiped out and impoverished. And this is what's going to happen to 95% of middle class. I don't care what your race, ethnicity is, whether you be white, black, whatever religion you are. Is those Islamic that just came here, or the so-called Christians, just whatever you are. I don't care what you are, whether you're a skeptic, atheist, or an infidel. It don't make no difference. What we have is that the basic unit of currency will be devalued 50 to 70%, and most people will be totally impoverished. And there's all types of social issues with this, because usually in situations that have like this, in Germany, and various Argentina. If you can look back in 2000, 2011, the type of social unrest that went through, 4 or 5 presidents resigned, dictators come in. Napoleon and Hitler came in during these times. So you're dealing with something that's so serious, and people are totally ignorant. It's almost profoundly the ignorance are. So we have it. So what do you do as an individual? This is the importance of having gold and silver, especially a lot of junk silver. These are the things that people can do to preserve their purchasing power, such that they don't have to worry about where they're going to lay their head at, where their next meal is going to come from. These are things that and listen, the hour is far gone now. as the money changers have totally bankrupted the system. And we've pointed out to you that your only choice is gold and silver. Now, the commodities are going to... Why is it in the last 10 years? Really, it's in the last 5 years. Because if you go back and look at gasoline around 2000, it was only about $1.62. We're bumping $5. So we look it up, we're up 300%. Have your wages increased 300% in the last 10 years? The number one commodity that has went up in the last 10 years is silver. It's went up 7 times. Gold has went up 5 times. Copper's 3 or 4 times. We look at some of the soft commodities, corn, soybeans, even gasolines that we pointed out, cocoa, coffee. These commodities are going through the roof. And as a result, the reason they're going through is that the people with the money, the people that are buying commodities to maintain their purchasing power. The banks that were giving great amount of money, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America. Well, what would these people do with the money that was given to them by the Federal Reserve? Basically, what they did was they went into the marketplace and bought commodities and boosted the stock market up to almost 14,000. Are we in La La Land? Is this Disneyland? Is this a cartoon? I mean, we had 14,000. We may go to 15,000. And if you're going to use the stock market as a barometer of what's happening, we got a problem. The problem is that we were at 14,000 last time. That was prior to the collapse. Now here we are at 15,000 again. So wait a minute, what's happening here? What is it saying to us? It's saying to you that the money that's boosting or stimulating the stock market is not from the 401ks or people investing. This is primarily money that was created by the Federal Reserve. And they're monetizing of the debt, and currently they're doing $85 billion a month. This is why mortgage rates are so low. Now, where is all this heading? Is that there's a bond crisis coming. You got 3 factors. You got the stock market, you got the bond crash, and you got the dollar. And they're all tied together. And as the Federal Reserve continues to print money, I can take to buy these bonds. Not only is it undermining the actual basic unit of currency, the dollar, but the dollar value of of bonds becomes totally worthless because you got 0 interest rates. That's a whole story, and that's nightmarish. So our desire, or the point of this video, is to get as much silver as you get your hands on. Silver is probably one of the best investments of the decade. Now listen, going back just 2 years, at 2011, right around the summer of 2011, silver was $17. That summer. But by the April of the following year, I think my dates may be wrong, but during that summer, by April of the following year, silver had went up to almost 50, just say for the 49, just say $50 rounding up. So we have silver has almost went up 3 times in a period of 8 or 9 months. So you can see then that, listen, this is serious. Gold shot up, and this is all as a result of QE1, QE2, QE3, these stimulus things that the Federal Reserve did, and people began to flee into this. And let me say one final comment. This month of January, the U.S. Mint sold a record amount of silver eagles. Now, most of you haven't seen the silver eagles. Those were initiated in 1986 under Reagan, probably one of the most profitable agencies of the government. They sold almost, it was some 8 million in a month. People are terrified. It's a small nucleus of people have begun to gather silver and gold, and wherever the 99% of the people, 90-something million, have not even made preparations, and the poverty is unparalleled. Even though nations throughout the world have been building reserves of gold and silver. That's another story. But look, time is out. I want to just encourage you to do as much research. Those of you that are novelists, you'll just come into this situation. You need to do some deep research on the internet to determine what is truly happening and what you must do for yourself and your family. The government will, I'm going to say this, the government will not be able to provide the basic services that you are used to providing as they go through the devaluation, they go through broke. Those of you that are with those link cards, I would suggest if you can't get silver, you buy as much canned food as you can get your hands on and do as many odd jobs to get. I don't care if you can't get but $300 or $400 worth of silver. You don't know what silver is going to do when this thing busts wide open and it becomes the only medium whereby you can buy the basic necessities of life. And if you don't think that that's happening, you go down and look at Venezuela and Argentina at this current devaluation. And let me say finally, to show you how crazy it is in the third world, Egypt is having great economic dislocation as a result of the Muslim Brotherhood coming in, the chaos in the Spring Revolution, and the undermining of Mubarak. Total chaos. And their currency is being totally devalued, and everybody is trying to get into the dollar. Because the dollar is the best of the worst currency, and they all are I told you, we're on a death watch now. And that's what their solution is. But our solution, the real solution, is to move back to gold and silver as a mean of preserving purchasing power. 1 quarter now is worth, 1964, 90% silver is worth $6 to $7. A silver dollar, which is really 3.77 of an ounce, 3/4 of an ounce, is worth anywhere from $30 to $35. That's telling you how much your money. What are you going to do when you need 100 of those? A couple of hundred of those to buy one coin. How are you going to eat? What is orange juice going to cost? Can you imagine $10 or $20 for orange juice? You don't understand what people don't have any. They're totally illiterate of economic history and the impact that they have. But I want to just end with an encouragement. It's not too late. You don't have to be